Erica Robinson here with another YouTube video. I solicited questions from viewers. I said, if you have any questions, not personal, but sort of about the collective energy of what's going on in our world, please to put those in the comments, and then I would be happy to look at them. And I had a viewer from the UK ask me a question about the riots that are happening currently in the UK. So I don't know if everybody's aware, but the situation was that there was a 17-year-old boy who knifed, injured, killed, and injured several girls, again, using a knife. And, I'll tell you what, I live in the US. And so whenever there is any kind of mass anything, generally, of course, here it's sadly shootings. If you are Black, the first thing that will go through your mind is, please don't let this person who did this be Black, because all hell will break loose and rain down on us and our community. Now, I will say, generally speaking, these mass shooters tend to be young, white, incel type men. Well, in the UK, this story had a twist because the perpetrator, who again was 17 years old, was British born, but Rwandan in his background, which is to say Black, right? Every Black American's worst nightmare is that the perpetrator is going to be Black, right? Well, so here we are. And we don't know the reason for the attack, but we know that there were girls killed and there were girls injured in this attack. And as a result, there have been riots throughout cities in the UK. And the rioters have been right-wing types. Okay. The question that I was asked was, will these riots end soon? I mean, again, anytime something like this happens, it's an opportunity for whoever has a grievance to come out in force. So I pulled 5 cards to look at the question. The question is, will these riots end soon? But I also pulled some more cards because I thought we could look at this in some more depth than just that. But the 5 cards that I got initially, I'm gonna pull them out from this spread, are the clouds, fish, the whip. Now, this was in the middle, and this is the card that I selected for riots because it's arguments, fighting, discord, okay? Garden, and then snake. So what might these cards mean altogether in the context of the question? Well, clouds are about doubts. Oops, as I drop the cards. I wish I could figure out the way to sort of show you my desk. I'm still trying to figure that out so that you can see the cards all laid out. But until I figure it out, we're going to have to do this in this fumbling kind of way. This is doubts. Doubts are being sown by actors who mean no good, which would be these right-wing people who are creating these riots. They want to sow doubt in the country about immigrants, basically. Okay, they're trying to create worked up feelings. Fish is the card for feelings. So, feelings of doubt and insecurity and discomfort. That's what they're doing with these riots. The intentions are bad. These are bad actors. and they want to have an effect on the population at large, because that's what the garden is. The garden is the populace. So I would say that the riots, I would call them opportunistic in nature. You know, in other words, something bad happens and people seize on it and use it for their own ends. Okay. So then I decided, well, let me pull some clarifiers on this, because this is wild. So the first thing is to look at the clouds. These are doubts about can the UK be a more pluralistic society than it's been in the past, or can the UK reconcile itself to pluralism, meaning having lots of different people from different places. Now, of course, the UK does have that, but there are feelings about that kind of thing. You know, can everybody get along and be friends and be brothers? Because that's what this card is for. Can things improve in terms of hostilities between groups? This is the card for improvement. Can people move forward from bigotry, racism, narrow-mindedness, insularity, homogeneity, all of those things? Okay. Then I looked at the fish, which again, that's emotion, right? And we had the tree next. And so these people want to plant the seeds of emotional angst, discord, etc. So to sort of, for the purpose of, I would say, anarchy, ripping society apart, because that's what a scythe can do. It can cut, right? It can create a split, a schism among people. Okay. So we have here the whip, and that stands for the riots themselves. Obviously, the people who are rioting will tend to be young men. In this case, even though the card shows you someone black, the rioters are white and right wing. And what they're trying to do is to block this. You know, this is sort of everything lovely in the world. It's the card for visual and performing arts, for example. It's the card for an award, a reward. It's anything that lends beauty and loveliness and gentleness to the world. Well, they don't want that. They're trying to create discord, dissension. Now, snake. A snake, sometimes it's a good card, but most of the time it's not. A snake is a problem. So what was the problem? Well, the deaths of these young girls, the injury and deaths of these young girls. And it's you know, a ring can be a commitment, a promise, but it's also a cycle, a cycle, a cycle. So it's that same old trope. Oh, you know how those people are. They come over here and we can't trust them with our women, and we can't trust them with our jobs, and we can't trust them with our etc. So it's a cycle. It's meant to continue a cycle of discord and discomfort with each other. All right. Now, the question that the viewer asked was, are these riots going to end? I mean, I'm going to say that with the ring here, I mean, I don't think it's going to be sort of a one-off, you know, a one and done thing. No, because there is a climate in that country, in our country, in the world, which is, we'll just say, inhospitable to people who look other than white. And this is an old cycle. It's an ancient cycle. It's a boring cycle, but it's a cycle that we're in. So I don't think it's necessarily one and done. But I will say this, that this is the people, the population. And I think that there are efforts being made. We've got the rider and the heart and the scales to bring things back into balance, to send a message that the government wants to bring things into balance, sort of, can't we all get along? Which is the heart thing here. So I am so sorry you're going through this. I think it was an opportunistic move made because the perpetrator was Black. And so it feeds a particular racist trope. Oh, that's how those people are. So I just wanted to answer that question and say, I don't think this will finish overnight. In fact, if anything, it's given permission for other people to do ugly things. But I do think that the government is doing all that it can to bring about some sort of balance to the situation and allow for whatever kumbaya moments can arise from it. So I hope that was helpful. Another viewer asked me to look at, and I will pull 5 cards on this one because it won't be so unwieldy, but asked me to pull 5 cards on whether or not Putin, the Russian president, or whatever he is, will sort of lay low-ish on Ukraine until after the election. Now, I've spoken about Putin before, I think in my last video that I did, or the first video I did, where I mentioned the fact that I think that the prisoner release happened because Putin sees what side his bread is buttered on, and it's not on the Trump side. I think he sees 45 as losing the election. And I think he feels like, given that he's beleaguered at home, because people are getting restless, their sons are being sent to war, they're not winning in Ukraine. I think he's beleaguered at home, and I think he's concerned about the NATO coming after him. And so I think this was a gesture of goodwill, sort of, towards the US, just because that's what it was, a gesture of goodwill. I think Putin is feeling a little bit cornered. But so the question was, will he leave Ukraine, relatively speaking, alone until after the US election? So I'm gonna just cut the deck. I shuffled the deck, and I'm gonna pull 5 cards, a little bit less cumbersome than all those cards I just looked at. Okay, and I'm gonna let the universe decide what the center card is going to be. So we have the garden, we have the young man, we have the stork, the ship, and the tree. And I think that what the cards did is they basically spelled out in card language what I just said with my words. This is all of the people, right? This is Putin's people. This is the US. This is Europe. This is all of the people watching Putin. And Putin would like to appear as though he's in charge, as though he still is, virile and powerful and can make these decisions and be that sort of yang energy. On the other hand, things are bad for him and he needs things to improve. The stork is the card for improvement. He wants to burnish his image. And obviously, if we're talking about Ukraine, maybe one way to burnish your image is to not send Russian youth and old people to their deaths in war. Maybe burnishing your image would be releasing US prisoners in a prisoner exchange. So I think he's trying to improve his image so that he can continue and so that he can have longevity in his role as the head of Russia. So will he lay low? I think he will lay lower in Ukraine. I don't think he will do any big campaigns in Ukraine because for now, I think he's on a different kind of campaign, which is sort of a burnishing of his image. I think that's what he's trying to do. So there's that. I'm gonna do one more thing. I think I know I said in my last video, my first video, that if I had to pick a vice presidential candidate for Harris, it would be Walz. I still feel that, even though I will say that the cards seem to indicate that the candidate that she would feel most comfortable with was Shapiro. I know she's meeting with the top candidates today, but I thought I would just draw 3 cards in real time here, 3 for Shapiro and then 3 for Walz, and see if I still believe that Walz will be the selection. Okay. Okay, interesting cards. So for Shapiro, we have the moon. The moon is the card for reputation, self-image, but the way that you choose to stand in the world and the understanding that you give other people of that. And I think that Shapiro is very well liked. Obviously, he's got detractors because anybody who's got fans also has detractors. And I do think that Harris feels the most comfortable with him. I think that he is the one who would lend the most, I'm going to say, youthful energy to this campaign, which is already a youthful feeling, energetic campaign, but sort of in keeping with the vibe of that, she may go with him for those reasons. One is that she trusts him the most, that he's got a great reputation, and 2, that he sort of is in keeping with that young, youthful, optimistic vibe. I said that there were people who didn't like him because of his stance on school vouchers, but it's also true that, remember, as the vice president, he can like school vouchers all he wants. If she doesn't like them, he can't enact anything, nor can he speak against whatever her policy is. So I feel like that's a non-issue. I know that she's going to be introducing her VP pick in Philly. I thought that might be a head fake, like, oh yeah, I'm doing this in Philly, but don't get it twisted. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna pick the guy in Philly. I mean, I don't know. These cards are very good for Shapiro. With Walz, and remember, I'm doing this in real time while she's meeting with them, even as I speak. Energy is mutable. I really thought that Walz had the upper hand, but somebody can say a wrong word in a meeting and then boom, things change. I do think it's between these 2 candidates though. So for Walz, I have the older man, I have the clouds, and I have the ring. Now, let me say, if Shapiro is giving a youthful vibe, Walz, whom I have been given to understand is the same age as Harris, gives the older man vibe. So if you're trying to create a vibe of energy and enthusiasm and youth, I don't know. That's not this guy's vibe, even though he's the one that coined the phrase, the word weirdo to great result. But the vibe's a little old. Clouds is the problem, really, amongst all these cards, because clouds is the card for doubts. If I'm saying that I have consistently felt that Shapiro is the one whom Harris most trusts, I don't love seeing the clouds here for Walz because it means that she has doubts. And remember, somebody can be great on the campaign trail and be like a pit bull, which is what is needed, I think, now on the campaign trail. But you don't necessarily need pit bull energy in your VP, right? I mean, a VP should be your second, obedient to your wishes, not trying to be large and in charge. We see that that's because that's how Harris conducted herself with Biden. It's how Biden conducted himself with Obama. I don't know whether Walz is the wallflower type. And this is what she may be thinking. And then we have the ring. Now, sometimes I like a ring. It's the card for commitments and promises and all that. But I'm feeling like because he's this older dude, she may be saying, I don't know, this feels like the same old, same old. Like, are we going by an old playbook to pick an old white guy as opposed to a new playbook with Shapiro? So, I mean, nobody likes a psychic who hedges their bets, but I'm going to hedge my bets. At least I've narrowed it down to two people. I would say in this moment right now, Shapiro has the edge. But she could wake up and do an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't know. But I really do think it's either one or the other. Okay, please do send me your questions. I will be answering them here, and I will be answering them on my Substack, which is also called In the Company of Cards. I would love it if you would like and share and subscribe and all those things that we're meant to say at some point in a video. And I promise I will figure out how to do my camera or my screen or whatever so that I can show you all of the cards at one time on the table. Thanks a lot. Have a great Sunday.